Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei was reincarnation of Sosuke Aizen and remember his last? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the SHADOWKING2030 for writing that awesome fanfic and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Aizen stared frantically looking for a way to escape. The last attack from Kurosaki Ichigo, his nemesis, left his badly injured. The damned Mugetsu Kisu Kurihara, the man he despised the most, walked towards him, his eyes showing pity, and he said, "It's quite the pity, Aizen, you are about to be sealed. Any last words?" Aizen shouted, "I am above you, inferior being. Kisuke, instead of using your intellect to achieve what you want, you waste it upon fools like Issei and Central. The Hijoku itself decided that I am to win. You can't do anything with me like this, so let me go." Aizen pleaded angrily, determined to not let Kisuke seal him away. Ichigo was unable to kill him due to his regeneration, which saved him at the last moment. Kisuke said, "Why such hostility? Perhaps it is due to the Soul King." While smiling coyly. Aizen nodded and shouted, "Hound of Shinigami, you tried to make amends by saying that it was your curse, but you lied. You will follow his rules only because it suits you. A real winner decides how the world should be ruled in his own way. I refuse to follow the king of yours." Kisuke said, "I can't allow that. Now can I see without the Soul King, the balance of all realms, Earth, Soul Society and Hueco Mundo would be disrupted, eventually destroying all. Goodbye, Aizen Sasuke. Bakudo Kichikrike Kakafmetsu." Seals enveloped Aizen, causing him to scream in pain. As it did, a strange flash of red appeared as a gauntlet appeared on Aizen's hand. Kisuke looked at the red gauntlet in confusion. However, Aizen for some reason widened his eye before laughing. Aizen said, "Kisuke. Your efforts have been futile. I have won." The gauntlet suddenly glowed green and to everyone's shock shouted a command: "Boost. Boost. 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 Boost." With just such a simple command, the seals were unable to hold in and were destroyed as Aizen released his Reiatsu. The whole started crumbling under the spiritual pressure. Ichigo only thought one thing: how? How is he doing this? Was it all for naught? The voice called out, "It's Shinji. We need backup here." Aizen let out an angry growl at the person who dared to interrupt him. He could feel a powerful aura coming. It was Issei Yamamoto. The man lived after all. Aizen gave credit when due. The old man was tough, he admitted, and perhaps why he was concerned about him being a thorn on his plans. However, having this gauntlet made even Yamamoto a non-factor in his dream. Yamamoto sternly said, "Aizen Sasuke, for your crimes against Soul Society, I will finish you off right now. I do not know how you gained that power, but it is nothing compared to heat of my flames. Burn in ash." From his Zanpakuto Ryuijin, Jaki Yamamoto unleashed powerful flames which singed Aizen, but he dispersed them with a simple release of Reiatsu. All the captains widened their eyes. Where did Aizen suddenly gain such a massive surge of power? Yamamoto glared at Aizen, then at the others, and said his victory was going to come. But first, killing Aizen proved too difficult. Aizen said, "If that is your best, it is quite pitiful." However, voice interrupted him. The voice from the gauntlet. "I can't believe this. Is that you, partner? How am I here? Why am I alive? Partner, what is going on?" The voice within the gauntlet called, surprising the Shinigami present. They looked dumbfounded. Yamamoto said quietly, "Now I know what that thing is." He called, "Why, Ddraig Gotch, Welsh Dragon and Red Dragon Emperor, why are you siding with this traitor, and why do you call him partner?" For half a second Aizen lost his balance. He didn't expect the old Issei to recognize the gauntlet in his hands. Ddraig, however, then read the whole Aizen's memories and was shell-shocked and shouted, "Partner, why did you commit such atrocities? What happened to partner I knew? Where is the Issei I knew?" Aizen shouted back, "Do not call me by that name. I am not the weakling that is used by others anymore. I am a god above you, inferior dragon." Ddraig went silent. "So was everything we did all for nothing? I thought of you as a friend, but you blatantly insult me after everything we've been through." Aizen scoffed and said, "Yes, you tool." Ddraig didn't know what to say. The partner he knew was gone dead. This man was not his partner. He was like all his past hosts who treated him as a weapon. Ichigo, however, was thinking, Issei. Who is Issei? Why did the supposed dragon call him Issei unless his? Ichigo shouted, "You? Aizen." Aizen turned to face Ichigo, who then shouted, "You name before death, you still remember it, don't you? Before being Aizen your name was Issei, am I right?" Aizen clapped mockingly. "Correct assumption, Ichigo. For that." Aizen proceeded to laugh at the attention, trying to glare at the other three, Shinji, Yamamoto and Kisuke, as if daring them to try something else. Shinji yelled, "We are done for. Destroy this abomination before he attacks again." Ddraig called out to Ichigo in his mind, "I have heard enough. As an emperor, may I strike down upon his life? Let us change battle plans, a new strategy. Ichigo, I will pass upon my boosts to you through this mental connection. Unleash your most powerful attack and finish off Aizen and PLS. Bring back my partner." He is in those depths, I know it. Ichigo then determined felt power being passed on to him. Aizen watched with shock and betrayal and shouted, "You dare betray me, Ddraig. You own partner." Ddraig replied coldly, "My partner is Issei Haidu, not you Aizen Sasuke." Itsuga Tenshu. A powerful arc of blue and red energy slashed and everything went dark for Aizen. Yamamoto said, "Now what do we do with him?" Aizen lay on the chair where suppression seals were put on him. He was unconscious after Ichigo's last attack. Shinji said, "I vote we imprison him. After everything he has done, do you think he can be released?" As everyone discussed what was to be done with him, Ichigo was deep in thought. Who was Aizen Sasuke? They had known Aizen to be a traitor, a scum, a madman. But who was he as Issei? Aizen's mindscape. Aizen could be seen raging and striking at Ddraig, who merely avoided his attacks for what he thought was a betrayal. Aizen's rage was pulling him in all directions. He began hitting at Draig's scales, but now Ddraig was once again defending himself from the blows with it. "You fool. How could you betray me?" Aizen shouted, truly angry at Ddraig. "You should have helped like a good tool. I must have known you'd turn on me, but you can't blame me, I'll make you listen, reptile." Ddraig, feeling angry, shouted, "And who are you to command me? Last I checked, the one who was my true host was Issei Haidu. You're not him. You're a poser, a faker, Aizen Sasuke." Aizen stopped and looked at Ddraig. Ddraig felt sorrow as he stared at the pitiful state of his former partner. Once a good man turned into a ruthless psychopath. How did this happen? Outside the mindscape. Aizen awoke, noticing he was sealed. Sighing in slight annoyance, he looked up at the people in front of him. The Gete all were glaring at him. Ichigo, however, had a look of curiosity. Aizen said, "So you ignorant fools finally sealed me? I must congratulate you. You stopped me. Now why are you to gloat on my face? Go along, I don't mind." He smirked. Yamamoto stepped forward and said, "Mayuri, Unohana, do it." Unohana and Mayuri Kuritsuchi stepped forward. Aizen looked uninterested. However, they soon chanted a spell, Bakudo. Ushinawareta Kyoku. Soon Aizen lost consciousness again. As the room around the captains shifted, they were in a dark place with a red dragon by their side. Ddraig asked Gete, "Why are you in Aizen's memories?" Unohana smiled and replied, "Yamamoto-san told us everything about you, Red One. We are here to find out who is Issei Haidu and why you called him Issei." Ddraig scoffed, "HMPH. Aizen is Issei, my former partner. I myself want to know what happened that he became like this," still feeling bitter about what Aizen Issei said. Kisuke smiles coyly and says, "Don't we all?" The land shifts as an academy is shown. Basic rundown. All the captains were shocked and even surprised, to say the least, and bid angry the women. They did not expect Aizen to be a pervert of all things. The women were furious as they saw Issei, who is now known as Aizen, peeping on the girls and his dreams of being a harem king. Unohana had a strange smile, making everyone lean away from her. Then they see the date and the fallen attack, to which they were shocked. Sure, he was a pervert, but he didn't deserve to be killed like that. They see Ria's Grimory, a devil of the Grimory household of the underworld, and Eren Lion save him by making him a part of her peerage. This event led to Issei having a fear of women. Issei is then shown to interact with Asia after getting to know about the supernatural from Ria's and her club and peerage members, Akeno Himejima, Yudo Kiba and Kaneko Taoju. Issei hung out with Asia, helped her and even cared for her. Seeing the normally perverted Issei or Aizen act like a normal boy who just wants to help people struck a chord within Ichigo. Was Aizen really this kind? Aside from his pervertedness, which Ichigo found annoying, he was genuinely kind to all. What happened to make Aizen so evil? They see Asia get kidnapped by Rainer and her death, which horrified many like Rukia, Ichigo and Renji, while others like the captains only stared in sorrow. Issei pleading to the devil and unlocking the power of the boosted gear and beating Rainer's ass. Ria saved Asia and they saw everything. Issei beat Riser, saved Ria's. He had sacrificed his own arm for that so that Ria's could escape from her arranged marriage. They saw him help the exorcists in getting back Excalibur fragments and even help Kiba to recover from his nightmarish past. They saw him go ballistic when Asia nearly died from Shalba and activate the Juggernaut drive. They saw him fighting the hell out of Volley when he threatened to kill his friends. They saw Issei now as nothing but a pure-hearted individual. They saw him help Akeno recover from her past. They saw his fight with Sarah, though frowned when Riaz did not give him a chance to explain when he didn't confess to her. He beat Sarah and even achieved a piece of Great Red's flesh while fighting against the beast of the apocalypse, Trihixa. This caused many of the captains who hated Aizen into having respect for him. Even Shinji had felt awe. Kenpachi grinned in battle lust. Oh, one thing lingered: how did Issei become Aizen? Throughout this, Ddraig smiled the good memories. However, a scene appeared that drove Ddraig ballistic. Scene start. Man, oh man, I hope Riaz like this gift, Issei was thinking happily as he brought a ring home to Riaz so that they could marry. Issei knew his time in the supernatural forever wasn't guaranteed. Trihiksa was only sealed, and if it escaped again he wouldn't be able to survive since he lost Ddraig, who gave up his life for him in the battle. May peace upon that noble dragon. However, as Issei entered he noticed something was wrong. His house felt wrong. Issei was then stabbed in the back. Issei slowly turned around to see Riaz holding Ascalon. How did she get that? But most importantly, why? Riaz smirked and said, well, poor Haidu Issei. Dead because of a crazed stray stabbing him in the back when he did not notice, as the stray had a dragon-slaying sword. Pitiful, she said the last part in disgust. From the shadows came the student council, along with Sona Sitri, Seraph Leviathan, Ajuka Beelzebub and even Surziches Lucifer sorry no Braziches. All smirked as Surziches came forward and said, Issei Haidu, without Ddraig you are useless. The faction has decided to exterminate you because of your uselessness. Issei touched his cheek as tears came pouring down. His ear was breaking. Why? Why, damn it. He saved them all countless times and now. Issei said, betrayed at Riaz SSSO all those times. Riaz laughed out loud and said, you were dead because of me, you idiot. Hissing, do you think a devil won't know what activity is happening inside their territory? Issei's heart shattered as he realized that Riaz had in fact used him as a slave this whole time. Riaz said, it's a good thing you're gonna die. Nobody will miss you, Issei, goodbye forever. Worthless pervert. Issei's eyes went blank and he shouted, releasing his inner anger raw. The draconic aura from Issei was insane. Par with Tiamat of all people. Issei's body glowed as he held on Riaz and screamed, I will not die. I'll take you with me. Regret for your sins, Riaz Gremory. Riaz screamed in pain as Issei's fiery aura burned her hand, however Saji kicked Riaz away and summoned his sacred gear, intending to absorb the attack. Saji stared in horror as Issei exploded and a barrier was erected by Surziches, saving the rest. Saji, however, was still fine as Sona cried in relief at what transpired. Scene end. The people watching had many emotions: rage, anger, disgust, and most of all sorrow at what Aizen or Issei went through. Ichigo clenched his fists in rage. Issei did not deserve whatever happened to him. Yamamoto was outraged at what happened. However, soon they saw the silhouette of Aizen stagger toward them. Aizen staggeringly said, don't give me those looks, I'm not weak, I'm a being above you all. Ddraig, who was watching with utter hatred, looked at Issei Aizen with sorrow. Ddraig, partner, just stopples, I can't watch you like this. Aizen shouted, no, I will not be used again. I am Aizen Sosuke. The smartest man Soul Society gave birth to. Ddraig said, partner, what about your parents, what would they think? Aizen went silent, not having any answers for the first time. Hundreds of thoughts raced in his mind, but one was prominent: get me away from them. The Hijoku responded to these thoughts, and Aizen suddenly felt himself disappear as well as Ddraig. The captains watched on with shock as both Aizen and the Welsh dragon disappeared to God knows where. The Keno's Pav. It had been years since the love of her life had died. Riaz was a fool to think she would not know. Everyone in the peerage found out about Issei and what happened. From there on, the peerage was blatantly pissed off at Riaz for what she had done. Riaz betrayed the one person who helped them the most. Kiba was so angry he nearly cut Riaz's head off for what she had done. Anger was the only thing Akeno Himejima, the head of the Himejima clan of the underworld, knew to Riaz Gremory. Yes, Akeno trained her ass off after Issei's death, which drove her insane and depressed. She soon became a high-class devil. Even after Surziches tried interfering, she couldn't be stopped. She had become powerful and created her own peerage. One thing she surprisingly did not expect was Riser Phoenix of all people helping her. She was supported in her dream by even Seraert Bale. Riser had in fact grown to respect Issei and had felt saddened and outraged by Issei's death at Ria's hands after she betrayed him. The Phoenix house cut off all relations with the House of Gremory. She soon created her own peerage and family, her queen being none other than Asia Argento, who trained as well being a healer but is now an expert user in fire magic thanks to Riser, who also refused to be weak and be used as well and trained along with them. Akeno was now known as the lightning goddess of the underworld and Asia was known as the hellfire priestess. Her half-full insight enabled her to access holy magic, which she trained from Azazel. Azazel was distraught learning what happened and nearly threw a tantrum, threatening to destroy Japan at the rate he was angry. Kiba also became a high-class devil and became her knight. Losing his best friend left Kiba truly alone in this world. He now rarely shows emotions, but still has his knightly honor. He in fact became so strong he now wields the true Excalibur. Yes, Kiba Udo was in fact considered honorable to use Excalibur, the same legendary sword of Arthur Pendragon. Hanako was saddened by what happened to Issei, and she now hated Riaz and left her without any warning, and to the Kyoto faction now as a member of Yasaka's group. Yasaka was destroyed completely after hearing what happened to Issei and cut off all ties with the devil faction. After some pleading, she took the odds in her favor. Kaneko was to be hunted down since she was now a stray. However, Yasaka demanded for her status as a devil to be revoked. Through a powerful purification process and help from Azazel, they were able to counteract Ajuka's created devil pieces by removing them from her body. However, it was fickle and it had a very small chance to work. Kaneko was lucky she survived. Kaneko, after surviving, worked her ass off in training and reached a level of power even beyond Yusaka. Yusaka and Kuroka had trained her and they were proud of their efforts. In fact, Kaneko was the next soon to be the queen of Kyoto. Also, her small petite frame changed and she was now 9 BTW. Hearing her height, she squealed so hard that the entirety of Kyoto's glass broke. Her cleavage was average, not to the desire of many men. But that didn't matter when she quite literally matched Artemis, goddess of the moon and most beautiful goddess in beauty. Roswis left Riaz and went back to Aden. Even the Norse did the same thing. They nearly cut off ties with the devils. Even Roswis got her status revoked. However, only Asaka, Kunu and the fallen angels and Aden know what happened along with all of Issei's friends. The devils spread a lie stating Issei dies because he was a traitor who worked with the Cows Brigade. All the factions were shocked but believed this except for very few among the factions: Michiel, Gabriel and all the seraphs and angels, Aden and Shiva. Safe to say the ones who didn't believe the devils were less than pleased after they found what happened. Vali lost it and nearly killed Riaz. None of the members in his peerage were pleased. Vali, also trained, is now currently the strongest devil in the underworld, followed by Akeno, who ties with Riser, Phoenix and Surziches. Yes, even Riser had trained, he became incredibly powerful. He refused to be used by someone so disgusting as Surziches. Zenobia lost her emotions and went to Vali's peerage and became his queen. Years after losing Issei, Zenobia gained her emotions finally after Vali had surprise at her. Zenobia's eyes lit in surprise when that happened. Vali had confessed he liked Zenobia for a long time after she became his queen. He honestly never paid any attention to things like dating up until Zenobia came into his life. Zenobia cried hard saying she missed Issei a lot, however Vali comforted her and both started a relationship. Issei's body was never found, so a personal grave was built in his house where Goro and Miki, his parents, lived. Vali, Azazel, Michiel, Gabriel, Irina, Akeno, Kaneko, Asia and all of his friends came to pay their respects each day. Yes, even Mitsuda and Motohama. The two, despite being perverts, were Issei's genuine friends. Without having the main of the perverted trio, the two split, and while are still friends, the perverted duo was no longer. Mitsuda and Motohama learned about the supernatural. Angry at the injustice of what happened to Issei, both trained hard after finding out they had sacred gears they will be revealed later. Irina despised Riaz and gave her such a bad injury, a scar across her right eye which will never recover. Irina trained with Michael and soon became an archangel, reaching the level of a seraph. She was soon to be crowned as the next queen of heaven, especially since her title was the Angel of Judgment. She was the strongest angel in heaven now. Issei would be proud of them if he were still alive. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Miki Haidu was devastated after their son's death, and so was Goro. They also know about the supernatural. Hearing what Riaz had done made them hate her beyond anything. However, it would never bring their son back. As she was returning after buying groceries, she was surprised to see a portal open when suddenly a man of 2 was thrown out. He had brown hair and certainly a strange choice in clothing. He, however, looked very weak. Miki. Oh dear. Runs to the person. What happened to you, young man? Frowning in worry, her motherly behavior kicked in as she lifted him up and dragged him to her home where he could be healed. Goro was going to have a heart attack. Aizen Issei woke up groggily and slowly opened his eyes. His eyes stared at a very familiar room. He thought, why is this room so familiar? Ddraig then called out to him, partner. Aizen called out Ddraig. Ddraig answered, partner, you don't recognize this room? Aizen looked around and his eyes widened. This is my room from when I was then. That meant. The door to the room opened as a middle-aged woman came in with a tray of food and medicine. She saw the man was awake and smiled. It seems you're awake, young man. I'm Miki Haidu. You were unconscious when I found you and so I helped you. Issei Aizen nearly went back to unconsciousness as he saw who it was. It was his mom, Miki. Suddenly man's voice called out, Miki. Has the guest woken up? A middle-aged man entered the room and asked, it seems you're awake. Who are you, young man? And what part of the supernatural are you from? This was Goro Haidu, father of Issei Haidu. Aizen's eyes widened. It seems much has changed since my absence, he thought. Ddraig asked telepathically, what will you do now? Please don't tell me you're gonna manipulate them. Aizen bit back furiously, of course not. It doesn't matter if I am not the Issei they knew or loved, they're still my parents. Ddraig sighed, glad his partner didn't plan using his own parents he didn't see even since he became Aizen. The gears in Issei Aizen's mind turned at the question his father asked. He replied, it seems you are aware of the supernatural, Goro Haidu. Realizing he knew his name, Goro stood in front of Miki and shouted, who are you? Aizen raised his hands, peace. I am Aizen Sosuke, Soul Reaper, someone who guides spirits into the afterlife. I have come to inform you about your son Issei Haidu. The two's blood ran cold. Mickey rushed to Aizen and demanded, you know my baby. How is he? Is he good in the afterlife? Oh, he is not sent to hell, is he? Aizen replied, he is quite fine and do not worry, he is not in hell. I was coming to deliver a message to you from Issei when I was attacked by someone unknown. Boru asked, a message? Aizen said yes. He says, Dad, Mom, I am sorry I kept the secret of the supernatural away from you. I only did it to protect you guys. I really miss you too here. I was never grateful for all the things you sacrificed for my sake. I am a disappointment. You must be happy I'm gone since you don't have to deal with a perverted child anymore. Even if you hate me, I'll always love you too. If someone even harms a finger on you, I'll rush from the afterlife to save you too. It's lonely here without you too. I miss you too a lot. I'm sorry for being such a worthless son. I couldn't even give you grandkids to spoil. I'm sorry. Love you, Mom, Dad. Mickey and Goru were crying as they heard this message. Mickey kept saying, you're not a disappointment. Goru comforted Mickey as much as he could and looked at Aizen with a grateful look. Holding his own emotions that he had to lie to his parents once again, Issei Aizen shunpoed from the house. Aizen stared at the sky as Ddraig called out, partner. Aizen said, I did it to protect them. After everything I've done. They're better off without me. Meanwhile, in the Himejima house in the underworld. Swords clashed as Kiba and Volley fought hard. Both were sparring so as to keep up with themselves and not let themselves get rusty. Akeno, Zenobia and Asia fought each other. Gaspar was back in Romania, where most of the vampire clans were training. Joining them were Mitsuda and Motohoma, who were fighting with each other. Mitsuda roared and punched Motohoma square in the face. Motohoma hissed in pain before taking out Stormbringer and going Balance Breaker, followed by Mitsuda, who did the same. In Balance Breaker, Motohoma got a lot of hits in as he was too fast for Mitsuda. However, Mitsuda's incredible regeneration and durability ensured he wasn't suffering too much damage. Akeno called out, alright everyone. That's a wrap. Everyone stopped fighting and Akeno snapped her fingers as a servant with a tray of juice came in and left it there, bowing before leaving. Everyone took a sip, sighing in contentment. Mitsuda said, thanks Akeno. This training regime really helps us be in shape. Motohoma agreed, I agree, this is good. Asia frowned and said, it would be better if Issei were here. Everyone got lost to sadness. Zenobia clutched Volley so as to not let her emotions flow. Akeno smiled sadly and patted Asia and said, I know, Asia-chan. However, we can't let this bring us down. Issei wouldn't want to see us like this. Udo quipped, Akeno-sama is right. We can't let this bring us down. Akeno frowned and pouted, Mouu Kiba-kun, stop calling me San, call me Akeno, after all we are friends. Kiba chuckled and said, sorry Akeno-san, old habits die hard. Akeno pouted again at the formality. Everyone snickered at the two bickering. However, unbeknownst to them, someone was watching them. It was Issei Aizen, who spied on them, totally hiding his energy signature, practically making him invisible to them. Aizen thought in happiness, they didn't betray me, I'm glad. Ddraig asked, what will you do now, partner? Please, no world domination. Aizen replied, I am over that, Ddraig. I just want to be the strongest man in existence now. Ddraig replied, partner, you realize even without the boosted gear you are stronger than even Crom Cruach, and without those seals, you are just as strong as me in my prime. With the gear, even the dragon gods would, and heck even Trihixa would think twice before fighting you. Aizen smiled knowingly and replied, of course. However, they did not cover Draig's signature properly, causing Albion to sense him. Albion shouted, impossible. Volley looked in confusion, Albion, what happened? Albion replied, Ddraig. He's back. I can sense him. Volley and the others shouted, what? Akeno asked seriously, Albion, are you sure? Albion confirmed that Ddraig was back. But how? He sacrificed himself to save Issei during the fight with Trihixa. Albion said, Volley, the Red Dragon Emperor is outside waiting. All of the people teleported to see Issei Aizen, who made himself visible. But they didn't know he was Issei. Aizen thought this is gonna be fun. Volley said, Sekiryuite. Aizen replied, Yokoso. Suddenly space shifted as they were all transported into a dark chamber. They looked forward to seeing Aizen sitting on a throne like a king. Aizen said, welcome to my soul society. Everyone present was ready for combat as they stared at the new Sekiryuite of the generation. However, Volley stepped forward and asked Red One, why are you here? Aizen smirked as he replied, for a fight, Hakuryuku. I hope you are ready. You have months to prepare. On the night of the last day of the road month, I will beat you and prove myself as the strongest being among all factions. He declared. Volley looked on suspiciously and asked, you just want to prove yourself as the strongest? Aizen smiled as he said, no, I will claim. Her. Points at Akeno as my wife. Everyone exclaimed, what? Biba glared and said, "You must be a mentally unstable retard if you think you can make Akeno-sama your wife and get away with it." Aizen released off a bit of his Ryastu, and everyone could feel the mind-bending pressure upon them. They had trained so they were able to resist getting put down, but still, the sheer power behind it was staggering. Bali dropped a cold sweat as he said, "It seems you are stronger than I anticipated. I will only accept this if Akeno is not put as some." However, Akeno interrupted Vali and said, "I accept." Everyone looked on shocked. Akeno then continued, "Only if you can beat Vali, myself, Riser, and says the last name with disdain Sursages." Everyone smirked thinking he would not accept, however he let out a small chuckle and a burst of full-blown laughter and shouted, "Wonderful. More reason to show my power to those weaklings. I accept." Everyone looked gobsmacked. Was this man deranged enough to take on the strongest devils in existence all at once? Aizen smiled and lovingly looked at Akeno. "I will wait for you, my wife. You will soon be mine." But that space shifted again as all of them were back at the Himejima house except for Aizen. Zenobia, irked and pissed, asked, "Who does he think he is underestimating us?" Vali comforted Zenobia, who calmed down and sternly told Vali, "Sweetie, kick his arrogance out of him please for me." Vali chuckled as he had the woman of his life and Zenobia did back the same. Everyone else had a lenny face as they stared at the couple. Akeno then sighed and said, "It seems me, Vali and Riser have some training to do." Asia worriedly asked Akeno-sama, "But you are one of the strongest people of the underworld. Don't waste your time with someone such as him." Vali said, "We know, Asia. However, this generation's red dragon is no joke. We must train so we may not fall. I'll inform Riser. He'll definitely accept considering how much he hates arrogant people." Ever since Issei's death, all of Issei's friends began despising arrogance in general, no thanks to Rias. Even a form of arrogance, how minor it may be, will cause them to lash out at the one responsible, especially Zenobia, Kiba and Riser. Back to the Haidu household. Aizen shunpoed back to the household in his room. He then saw all his porn stash of when he was Issei. He looked at a CD. His eyes widened in recognition. He checked the house for any energy signature. No one was there. This was a song he sung when Rias had refused to let him explain for not confessing to him. Aizen once again checked. No one was in the house and he began. He took out his guitar and started. His parents recorded this the first time. Ddraig whispered in amazement, "Partner, that was beautiful. I have heard you sing once and that was good, but now it's amazing." Aizen smiled fondly at his old friend. He failed to notice two figures who were watching him. They heard his singing and were crying. One of them opened the door. It was revealed to be Mickey and Goru. Mickey asked lowly, "Issei?" Aizen froze. He turned out hurriedly and said, "It seems I've overstayed my visit. Forgive, I will take my leave, Mr. and Ms. Haidu." Aizen was about to rush when Mickey shouted scoldingly, "And where are you running off to, young man? You are not leaving unless you eat your dinner. Come downstairs and get off the stupid porn of yours." Aizen froze again. Mickey stopped as she was about to burst into tears. This confirmed it. Goru and she had heard Issei sing once and they recorded it. The fact Aizen instantly obeyed Mickey's words confirmed Aizen was their baby boy Issei. Mickey, threatening to cry, asked, "Issei, my baby?" Aizen turned, trying his best to not let his emotions flow as he smiled lovingly and said, "Ka-san, O2-sen, I'm home." Mickey lunged forward and hugged Issei Aizen tightly, never letting him go no matter what. She will never let anything bad happen her innocent boy ever again. Goru hugged his son as tears flowed. His young man was back home. Issei Aizen just gave a smile as he was happy to be back home. Suddenly Draig's gauntlet appeared, startling his parents, and started crying, "Boo-hoo-hoo. Partner, this is too emotional for me, gaha-gaha." Crying. Issei's parents were startled and stared at Issei for an explanation, who sighed and said, "I will explain everything." Though Issei dreaded the part of him being Aizen. Issei then explained everything. His date, his life in the peerage, and everything he did as Aizen. Issei's parents were horrified at what he did as Aizen. Mickey walked up to him and gave him a slap across the face. Aizen thought deserved. Mickey then hugged him and said, "I understand whatever you experience caused your rebirth as Aizen, but promise me nothing like that again, okay?" Issei Aizen smiled and said, "Of course, Mom." Mickey then gave Ddraig a thankful gesture and said, "Thank you for looking after my son, Ddraig-san." Ddraig just welcomed the gesture and said, "It's quite alright, ma'am. Though I utterly despise Rias for what she did," growls menacingly, "Partner, what do we do with her?" Aizen Issei smirked and said, "The fight with Vali will be one to remember. Rias will pay, just watch." Smirks. Mickey and Goru were quite worried on what their son had planned. If that face does not scream someone is screwed, I don't know what does. Also, Aizen will be called by his old name Issei once again. Issei woke up the next day ready to start his plan in action. His master plan. It would have to begin with the first part of his revenge. Killing off Sona Citri and her peerage and breaking Seraphol Leviathan apart. After Sona Citri is done he would have to slowly gain Seraphal's trust acting as if he cared. Then the childish Mayu will soon be put in his hands and for him to control. He would break the Mayu down bit by bit before revealing himself at the fight with Vali. Truly an act of tasteful revenge. Issei ate his breakfast soon and put on his clothes before making his way to the now newly known Kuo College, where Citri and her peerage were. As if God had blessed him, today was a college excursion trip to Kyoto. True, the yokai living there might be a nuisance, but nothing he can't handle. But imagine his surprise when he summoned Kyoka Sugetsu accidentally when he tried summoning the boosted gear. Interesting. Ddraig, how is my Zanpakuto restored? Suddenly another voice, it was because of me, the Hejoku. I restored your Zanpakuto, Lord Aizen. Issei's eyes widened as he asked calmly, you can talk, Hejoku? The Hejoku replied, yes, I could always talk ever since you created me, Lord. If you are trying to converse with Kyoka, good luck since she is quite angry. Issei sighed, guessing this would be the case. He foolishly declared in his war his Zanpakuto was not needed for him to beat the Shinigami. Obviously, Kyoka Sugetsu found out and was angry with him. Issei entered into his inner realm where a beautiful woman with white hair and white-clad kimono was waiting for him. Kyoka Sugetsu stared at her master. Hello Issei, or should I say Aizen, she hissed in anger. Issei stared back with a serious look and replied, hello Kyoka. Fancy seeing you. Kyoka scoffed and asked, what are you here for? Weren't I an unwanted weapon of yours? What could possibly compel you of all people to come here again and show your face after what you said, saying all this with disdain? Issei sighed, knowing this would be bad. He said, I know, and Kyoka, I would like to apologize for what I said. It was wrong of me. I shouldn't have said such things about the person who understands me the most. Kyoka Sugetsu's eyes softened just slightly as she said, you should have thought this before you abandoned me. She looked back and said, very well, I give you a second chance. Prove to me you have the right to earn my forgiveness. I would be banning you from using my powers. Unfortunately, it would be against my nature to assist you, Aizen. So consider yourself lucky. Get the hell out now. Kyoka Sugetsu kicked Issei out of his inner realm. Issei sighed. It was gonna be difficult to earn back her trust. It's funny saying trust is after all an illusion. Earning trust could mean many things such as earning allegiance and earning camaraderie, but never trust itself. After all, trust is a fickle thing. It could easily be broken like the shards of a mirror. Aizen decided to teleport to Kyoto, making sure to hide his energy signature. He then noticed Sona and her entire peerage. He grinned, he was gonna enjoy this. Sona and her entire peerage were walking along the Kyoto forests. Saji said, Kaichu, this is incredibly peaceful. Sona gave a small smile and said, true Saji, but then frowned, a bit too peaceful. She was unable to rub off the sensation of wrongness. She didn't know, but someone was watching her. She tried sensing someone out there, but she didn't feel anybody's energy, at least anybody's energy that wasn't foreign to her. That came to a brutal end when she noticed a small orb. She shouted out to her peerage, look out. The purple orb crashed down and caused a small explosion that leveled the forest. No. Sona wailed as she saw what happened. Many members of her peerage died in an instant. Saji and Tsubaki were the only ones alive. Saji was coughing badly as he asked Kaichu, what was that? Tsubaki then noticed the shadow of a figure lurking behind Sona. Alarmed, she shouted, Kaichu, watch out. Sona couldn't react in time as she was backhanded to a tree. Issei said, bitch slap for a bitch, how satisfying. He appeared in front of the other two, releasing his Ryatsu and pinning them to the ground. Saji, struggling to move, asked, damn you. You just who are you? Issei replied calmly, a god. A being of true transcendence. Issei grabbed Saji by the hair and ripped off Ritra's gear from his arm, causing him to cry out in pain. Sona shouted, Saji. Issei then grabbed the now dying Saji and asked, how does it feel? Does it feel painful? Sona gritted her teeth in anger and snarled, you're not getting away with this, my sister is a Mayu and she'll find you and raze you to the ground. She didn't want to pull the card of her sister being a Mayu, but against whoever this was, her sister was the only person who could handle him. Issei smiled very creepily and said, Kaichu, how do you do? It saddens to see you don't remember this face. Sona grew confused, so did Tsubaki. Who was this man? Issei's face slowly morphed into an old figure they knew all too well. Sona stared in disbelief and said, Haidu. Issei's face shifted back to his current face and smiled as he said, Correct. Tsubaki spluttered, BB, but you're supposed to be dead. Issei choked Tsubaki and said, I was, but I had been reborn to someplace that's for only me to know and you to obsess over. Issei's eyes widened in mock surprise and he smiled and said, oh wait. In a single move, Issei snapped Tsubaki's neck and killed her, throwing her body to the ground. Saji shouted in pain, TS Tsubaki-senpai. Sona dragged herself to Tsubaki's body and cradled her head, while having one thought, Riaz, I was a fool to ever trust you. I should have never backstabbed Haidu. Oh god, someone please help us. Issei asked, what happened Sona Kaichu? Scared. Issei smirked as he walked to her and said, don't worry, it won't be that bad, just very painful. Ddraig spoke to him in his mind, partner, you're so evil and I'm so proud. The Welsh dragon's laughter echoed in his mind as Issei chuckled to himself. Sona spoke immediately. Issei, wait. I know I shouldn't have betrayed you, but please don't kill me. I'll give you anything. Money. Power. Women. Yes, you want to be the harem king, right? You can complete it. You will have women who love you. I assure you. You can even have me, but just don't kill me, I beg of you, Issei. Crying and in tears. Issei had a dark look as he thought foolishness on his citri. Foolishnesses. Issei smiled and said, you said you'll offer yourself. Sona's eyes lit up in hope as she shouted yes. Issei smirked and said, fine, you can live, but him. Issei summons Kyoka Sujetsu and slices off Saji's head as blood splatters all over Sona. Issei finished his sentence, he has to die. Sona shivered in fear at Issei's new personality. It was so cold, sadistic, brutal, but at the same time calculating, intelligent as well as manipulating. It was as if he were pulling out all her secrets by just looking at her. Issei said, you want to live, offer yourself to this, then you may live. Issei then opened a garganta as a ginormous hollow came out of it, probably in a judge's at first glance. The hollow spoke, Aizen, why have you called me? Issei smiled and said, here she said she'll offer herself to you so as to live. The hollow looked at Sona and licked its lips. Sona backed away in repulsion and said, I can't offer myself to that thing. Issei lost his smile and spoke, wrong word Citri. Hollow, you may do what you please. After you're finished you may make a meal out of her. The hollow looked toward Sona as if he found a true treasure. It walked to the now crying Sona and slowly ripped her skirt and uniform off. Sona said, help. Help. Issei, I am sorry, please help me. Crying and pleading. However, Issei walked away, never looking back as her cries were silenced, replaced by moans and screams of protests. Ddraig said, partner, was that necessary? I mean, I hate her, but that seemed a bit much. Issei said, I've always wanted to see her pride crumble like that. Rias will get it worse though. Ddraig shrugged and went back to playing Uno with Kyoka Sujetsu, who also made a place in Issei's mind. Ddraig thought evilly, Nyahaha. Even Albion can't beat me in Uno. Kyoka stands no chance today. However, Kyoka Sujetsu said, I call this a pro gamer move, before proceeding to put on the MLG glasses. The Hijoku exclaimed, Hodi Shido. Kyoka Sujetsu shouted, skip card, lose a turn. Ddraig thought la. But she again pulled out, skip card, lose a turn. Skip card, lose a turn. Ddraig shouted, what form of sorcery and bullshit are you pulling out, Kyoka Sujetsu? Kyoka then said, my final card, draw cards changing color to green. Uno Matha. Ddraig cried to himself silently, I lost. Issei sweat dropped as he face-palmed himself, mentally praying to God he won't lose his sanity. The hollow came back with a look of pleasure on his face. Issei raised his hand and said, Hato show. The hollow screamed as the blast disintegrated him. Issei had now a dark thought and smiled, I'm coming for you, Rias. Issei had removed all traces of his Ryatsu so that the devils won't find out who killed Sona Citri. He was currently invisible, watching and delight hearing the cries of one Seraphol Leviathan. Sanaya Ton. Cried Seraphol. She was heartbroken seeing her little sister in such a condition. When she had not informed her after the trip to Kyoto was over, Seraphol became worried and checked on Kyoto to see where she was, only to find her defiled husk. Hearing her cries, members of the Kyoto faction along with Kaneko, the next in line queen of Kyoto, her sister Kuroka along with Yusaka, the current queen of Kyoto, came to see what the hassle was about. Seeing Seraphol was shocking, but seeing Sona in that condition was even more so. The members, having some respect, left her to wail and mourn over the loss of her sister. It had been hours since then, and Yusaka stepped forward and placed a hand on Seraphol's shoulder to reassure her and said, Seraphol, we are not in the best of terms currently, but since this happened in the area of my faction, I will personally see to it the person responsible for this is punished severely. While meant to be words of comfort, Seraphol took this the wrong and released her aura, shaking Kyoto to its knees. Kaneko and Kuroka got in stances. Seraphol shouted, don't you dare show pity to me. I know you did this. Ever since the worthless Haidu was killed you have been distant towards me. You did this out of spite towards me, Yusaka. She stood up and glared into Yusaka's golden orbs. Yusaka glared back with equal amounts of fury. Yusaka just wanted to comfort her, knowing how painful it is to see someone you love in that state, and this bitch magical girl Mayu has the gall to insult her. Blame her. And even insult her love. Yusaka raged and said, I just wanted to show some pity and reassure you because you were my former friend. Now you insult me and my love. Seraphol snorted and said, which love? The love who saw you a toy to be used for his sick Desi. Slam! She was punched in the face by an enhanced Senjutsu punch from Kaneko. This sent Seraphol reeling back. Kaneko gave a glare that could freeze hell times over and said, Issei never looked at us like toys. He treated us with love. Talk trash about him, the devil faction will suffer. Serapho, losing her composure, shouted, mark my words, the Yokai faction will suffer for my sister's death. I will kill you Kaneko and Kuroka Taoju and finish off what the devils had started by ending your worthless Nekomata existence. Saying those words, Serapho flew away in anger, leaving a very pissed Kaneko and Kuroka behind. Issei decided to appear before everyone and shock all those who are standing, forcing them to take stances. Kuroka glared and asked, who are you? Issei smiled in such a way it made her lose composure for a bit. Issei grabbed Kaneko's hand, eliciting a squeak from her as he shunpoed with her in tow. Teleporting to a random location in Kyoto, Kaneko freed herself from Issei's arms and glared at him. Kaneko asked, what do you want from me? And why does your aura feel like death itself, her defiant stare never leaving her. Issei smiled sadly and said, it's sad to see you don't remember me Kaneko. It is good to see you've grown. I and many other areas as well while winking. Kaneko unfazed asked again, who are you? Issei said, who do you think I am? It was silent for a few moments. Issei sighed and grabbed a box of sweets and gave it to Kaneko. Here you can have mine Kaneko-chan. Those few words brought an old memory back. Flashback no Jutsukai. Issei smiled at Kaneko, who revealed her ears to Issei for the first time. She looked really embarrassed to say the least, and she went to find her sweets only to see all of it was finished. Outing she was annoyed. Issei grabbed a box of sweets he had for himself and lent his hand. Kaneko started at the box as Issei said, here you can have mine Kaneko-chan. Kaneko blushed as she replied, arigato senpai. Flashback no jutsu end. Kaneko felt tears rolling down her eyes as she whimpered Issei. Issei smiled and spread out his arms as he leapt on him and hugged him tight while repeatedly saying, never leave me. While crying. Issei's lips were suddenly contacted by Kaneko's own, who was happy to have her lover back. Ddraig whispered, smooth partner. Kaneko heard it and stared at the gauntlet in Issei's arms and whispered, Ddraig. Ddraig spoke up, indeed Kaneko Taoju. I have returned with my partner to enact our revenge upon the devils for their betrayal, and you are a key factor in this. Kaneko with seriousness asked, what can I do to help? Issei grinned and Ddraig had a maniacal smile. Issei whispered into her ear as Kaneko smirked. Serapho tiredly walked around the streets of Kyoto. No, she was not physically tired but mentally so. She was about to fall down when a man caught her in his arms and asked, miss, are you okay? Worried for her state. Serapho replied tiredly and said, no it's fine. I'm good. The stranger replied, are you sure? You look like you've been crying for a long time. Serapho leaned herself on the man's shoulder as he said, let it all out, ma'am. Serapho sobbed and cried and let out all of her troubles on the man, who listened very patiently. Having cried enough, she looked at the man with a thankful look and asked, thank you. May I ask who you are? The stranger with brown hair and black framed glasses and a white haori replied, oh, my name is. After his made-up encounter with Serapho, the childish brat fell into Issei's trap. Serapho, slightly infatuated by his gentlemanly appearance, invited him to her house, though he doubted she would reveal herself as a Mao. However, this was perfect for his revenge. All will pay. Currently, he was in Serapho's house in the human world. Issei thought all according to Kakaku. As Issei continued to stare at Serapho, who was rambling on like a chatterbox, he gave her a patient look, though inwardly he was cringing at her loud and rambunctious attitude. Annoying vermin, Issei thought, irritated. Ddraig hummed an agreement inside his head and said, agreed partner. I still cannot understand how she became a Mao. Serapho asked, so Sosuke. What do you do in your life? Any work, any job? Issei said, I am a wandering author. I came from Hokkaido in a small and came here in hopes of getting inspiration in writing my first book. Though right now I'm trying to find a job to sustain myself. Serapho hummed and thought. Issei pulled out his trap card. By the way, I am sorry about the death of your sister. Whoever killed her in such a way must rot in hell. Serapho sniffled a little bit and replied bitterly, don't worry Sosuke, once I get my hands on the one responsible. Grinned sadistically, they'll die like a dog begging for mercy. Ddraig roared inside his head, ha, you wish. Issei silenced him quite. Ddraig. Issei pretended to feel bad and asked, if I may intrude, how about a small trip tomorrow to get your mind off things? Such a disturbed mind is never good for your health, besides your sister wouldn't want to see yourself like this. Serapho smiled sadly and said, arigato Sosuke. When should I arrive? Issei smiled and said, by AM. How does that sound? Serapho said, great. Issei leaned to Serapho and at her forehead as she blushed a tomato red as he said, it's date Sera-chan. Serapho spluttered in confusion as Issei light before he shunpoed from the place and went to the nearest trash can and vomited a rainbow. Issei groaned, gah. Oh Kami, that was just disgusting. Ddraig called out in worry, stay strong partner, we must remove the infection from your lips as soon as we can. Issei drank some water from a nearby vending machine as he said, "Ugh, well, that's the first part of the plan done. Now next. Get new allies you already have in mind." Ioka Sugetsu, who was quiet the whole time, asked whom. Issei smirked as he said, "The Chaos Karma Dragon, Tiamat is the first one on this list." Ddraig paled greatly as he shouted, "Are you crazy? She hates me, Issei. She'll try and kill you the moment you are in seeing distance." Issei smirked and said, "Don't worry Ddraig, I have an offer ready for her that she can't refuse. But first Ddraig. How can I convert myself into a dragon?" Ddraig, slightly surprised, asked, "How did you know that, and secondly why?" Issei said, "The Hijoku found out through your memories, and for a gift I want to give you Ddraig." Ddraig nodded a bit skeptical and replied, "Well, the first thing is I do it for you, since I have been rebounded with you are already percent dragon with this dragonification, and the experiments you conducted on yourself with the Hijoku as Aizen, you'll be percent dragon, percent Shinigami and percent hollow." Issei nodded and said, "Then do it. I know the risks of this, a whole lot of pain. I am ready Ddraig." Ddraig advised, "Go to an isolated location and construct a force field, from there we can start." Issei went in the mountains in an isolated cave and sat down and constructed a force field as Ddraig began the dragonification. It would take an entire week, but as Issei felt the pain, but after the Mugetsu this pain was like taking multiple syringes at once. Not really a fair comparison. It was the end of the 7th day when Issei contacted the Hijoku. Issei said, "Hijoku, it is time for the body revival." The Hijoku was known to manifest someone's deepest desire, and Issei was for Ddraig's freedom from the gear. The Hijoku, of course, Lord Issei, it shall be done. Ddraig was completing the dragonification when he felt a pull on him. He was suddenly lifted off and felt like he was forced out. He had only thought what the green glow could be seen coming from Issei's chest as a red aura of dominance erupted, taking the shapes of bones and hands of a dragon. As skin appeared, scales began to form and the land began to crumble. The entire supernatural felt it. In the underworld, Surziches was sweating like anything, knowing this aura was Ddraig's. He was released, but how? Riaz too was scared. If Ddraig found out what happened to Issei, no one would survive his wrath. Albion was shocked beyond belief. His rival was released from his gear. Someone undid God's seal. Bali too was surprised as he thought, "Just what are you, Aizen?" Grigori. Azazel was barking orders at everyone to fortify the defenses just in case Ddraig came in to question about Issei. He loved the boy like a son and missed him deeply, but he would be damned if Ddraig found out what happened and his temper tantrum threatened to kill his people. Heaven. Michael and Gabriel and the Seraphs were trying to calm down the angels, but to no avail. It wasn't until Irina shouted, "Stop this foolishness." The angels quietened as Irina spoke, "No matter what the red dragon tries, he will not harm heaven as long as I am alive. For if he does, he will face my wrath. As the next queen of heaven and your leader, be at ease. If he does come, welcome him peacefully without conflicts. Do I have it clear?" Irina turned to Michael and Gabriel and said, "Michael, if Ddraig comes in, tell him to meet me to get answers about Issei. No matter, he will try and find Issei's whereabouts to see whether he is dead or not. Handle it without threats, understood?" Michael smiled proudly and said, "Of course, Lady Irina." Irina gave a charming smile and poked Michiel's nose. "Good." Michael said, "I trained that girl." Gabriel pinched him and said, "Don't forget me." Back with Issei. As the land was crumbling and Issei's and Ddraig's aura were increasing, the entire mountain exploded as the country of Japan felt the explosion. As the smoke died, we could Issei, who looked the same, except now he had a new form. His hair had grown out and his eyes were black and white, having a third eye followed by veins close to his eyes. He had flying silvery apparitions and the sides of his arms had a galaxy-like appearance, with the Hijoku in the center of his chest having a celestial look. All in all, his plan worked. All in all, his plan worked. Issei said, "HMPH. All according to my plan." Then a fearsome roar was heard as he looked up at the looming shadow, who seemed to have slight tears and a grateful look. It was none other than Ddraig, who had his body remade into a whole new dragon body after centuries of being captive. He was grateful to Issei, who freed him from his prison. Ddraig was lonely most of the time in his prison. Then he met Issei, the only host who treated him like a friend and brother in arms. He initially thought the boy was a useless pervert, but Issei proved himself to be more than just that and went beyond impressing and befriending even the Dragon God's office and Great Red. Ddraig's new look. Ddraig said, "Partner." Ddraig said, "Partner, thank you. I don't know how I could ever repay you." Cries silently at his freedom. Issei smiles and says, "You were my greatest friend and still are, Ddraig. Nothing can ever replace that spot you hold. It's quite ironic I came back to trusting someone, even though my own saying is trust is like a mirror. Once broken, it can't be repaired. People swearing allegiance is a different thing, but trust is a different matter altogether, hence why never trust anyone, and here I am putting my faith in you, old friend." Ddraig chuckled as he asked, "What do you mean by your plan, Issei?" Issei chuckled as he said, "It's simple. The Hijoku and I used its power to my advantage. It automatically transcends me above others the moment I am close to death, hence giving me full transcendence. I exploited this since I knew most likely you can be released from your seal when I am weak during the Dragonification. That time I requested the Hijoku to break your seal which was weakened at the time, and hence you came back. But that also put me at near death, hence why the Hijoku transcended me beyond my own limits and gave me this form. Draig's eyes widened. His partner or now former partner was a genius. Issei closed his eyes and concentrated as he grew in size and scales began forming and an aura of death surrounded him. Issei transformed into his dragon form which looked terrifying. Issei reverted back into his base as he looked up at Ddraig. Issei asked well. Ddraig boasted pridefully partner you just became the strongest being in existence even beyond the likes of Great Red himself. Ha. Take that Albion. My partner is the best in the world. Issei laughed out loud. He hoped Ddraig never changed from the attitude of his. But suddenly. Ddraig turned in fear as he saw a western blue dragon rush at him. Flying fast towards the Welsh was none other than Tiamat the Chaos Karma Dragon and the strongest of the Dragon Kings. Flying fast towards the Welsh was none other than Tiamat the Chaos Karma Dragon and the strongest of the Dragon Kings. Fearing for his life Ddraig lifted off into the sky, but suddenly Tiamat slammed into him and sent him hurtling to the ground. Ddraig shouted, Tiamat. Wait just listen no. I refuse to listen. After so many years my revenge is in my hands. The Dragoness roared. Heido. Rikoho. An arc of powerful lightning strikes Tiamat and sends her off of Ddraig. Ddraig looks towards Issei with a grateful look as Issei asks Ddraig what is it between you and Tiamat. I actually don't know he replies sheepishly. After getting sealed my memory is kind of fuzzy. So I'm not really sure. Tiamat however gets up and attacks Issei shouting flames of karma. Ddraig shouts Issei. Those flames are what gave Tiamat her name as the Chaos Karma Dragon. It will burn you down at the atomic scale. And my partner's stronger than even Great Red. Why am I even worried? The flames hit Issei, but he stood as if nothing happened and dispersed the flames with a flick of his hand. Tiamat backs away in shock. Ddraig resisted the urge to laugh at Tiamat's part curious part horrified expression. Issei asked Tiamat-sama. Can I ask why you are attacking Ddraig? Tiamat glared at the Welsh dragon and said he lost my treasure. And still hasn't given me back my precious belonging. Ddraig sweated nervously and said, Tiamat I promise I'll return it to you once I remember where it was you see I have a bit of memory loss ever since being sealed. Chuckles nervously. Tiamat retains her furious expression and shouts that treasure was not just my most precious belonging it was my gift to you fool coated with my own magic. Ddraig's eyes widen as he shouts what? Tiamat slowly tears up and looks away partly blushing. Issei looking confused asks Ddraig is that supposed to mean something? Ddraig blushing heavily replies ahem. Issei in draconian terms when a female dragon gives a precious belonging to someone coated with magic then that essentially means she loves that person and wants to mark him. Issei looks shocked as he stares at Tiamat. Tiamat was now sobbing and wailing, I gave that to him thinking he would reciprocate my feelings. But the fool discards it and loses it shattering my heart as if I was a plaything to him. Ddraig at that moment felt like the biggest piece of shit in the whole world. Ddraig tries reaching out for the female dragon who slaps his claw away. Sighing Ddraig replies I'll be back. Ddraig then flew in a burst of speed determined to find Tiamat's treasure. Issei sighs as he looks at the sobbing Tiamat. A few hours later. It was afternoon and Ddraig still had not returned. Tiamat was resting taking a nap, her eyes having tear stains. Finally flapping of wings could be heard as Ddraig lands with Tiamat's treasure. Tiamat gets up and snatches the treasure away mumbling thanks I guess. But she suddenly feels a strange magic from her treasure as she smells it. She backs away dropping the treasure blushing deep red. What? Tiamat looked at Ddraig shocked. Ddraig had a serious expression as he says Tia, I never truly considered how much you truly liked me. I always thought you were like the other females after me for my power and status. However, you proved me wrong. Tiamat glares at him saying you think this changes anything I still hate you. Ddraig walks up the Dragoness and holds her in a tight hug as the Chaos Karma Dragon began thrashing evidently angry. Ddraig said I don't care I realized I never saw what I should have seen in you I realized that I hurt you, used you, and made you feel heartbreak so much so you might have died of heartbreak, as many dragons have I'm sorry saying all of this with a serious and truly guilt voice. Tiamat was now staring wide-eyed at the dragon. She was silent when she said turn into your human form. Ddraig confused but did what she asks. Then Tiamat morphed into her human form as she smirks at Ddraig. Ddraig just stares in awe and lust at Tiamat. Swinging her hips she jumps at Ddraig and slams her lips onto his shocking Ddraig, who internally smiled and back, both fighting for Dominatio and I think we all know who won there. Suddenly a cough is heard as they both stared back at Issei who had a deadpan expression. Both blushing get up with Tiamat pointing and asking who's he. Ddraig says meet my former host and partner Issei Haidu. Tiamat's eyes widen and she says the Chichiruite. But wasn't he dead? Ddraig wails in agony as Issei facepalms and chuckles to himself. Tiamat looks at the now sobbing Ddraig. Tiamat chuckles evilly as she whispers blackmail. Issei smiles and then proceeds to explain everything to Tiamat, who was a flurry of emotions ranging from shocked, sad, angry and curious. Tiamat then asked, what role do I play? Issei replies, I need both you and Ddraig as my right hands in this plan. You and Ddraig will act like waging war on the devils for what happened to me. In the shadows I'll manipulate the Gremory and Citri houses and let everything reveal itself. Tiamat thinks for a moment before replying, I accept. For what happened to a fellow dragon I cannot accept this. I will assist you, Issei Haidu. Issei smirks, we are in a deal. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow SHADOWKING 2030 times for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.